On September the 22nd at approximately 6 p.m, the Fortnite competitive team did something via their Twitter that they have never done before: direct interaction with their player base. Twitter tweeted, "Only players with 6-digit hype can respond to this tweet at MarsOW." Now, because of Twitter's features, it meant that he was the only person able to respond to that tweet. Now, this was incredibly exciting and obviously something we have never seen before, and so the competitive community begged Mars to use this platform to make a statement for the community. Now, obviously, if you pay attention to competitive Fortnite, you'll know the biggest complaint we have right now as a community is a lack of 100% chest spawns. And now, with a tweet from the Fortnite competitive Twitter where only Mars would be able to reply, meaning Mars would be the only visible reply with thousands of impressions, not just from the community, but from Epic themselves, everybody thought this was an opportunity for Mars to make a statement to bring back 100% chest spawns. Some players even took it further, asking Mars to make even more vulgar sentiments or complaints. The stage was set for Mars to be engraved in Fortnite competitive history, doing something absolutely crazy. And as a community, we stayed waiting for a couple of hours, as if you know Mars, you'll know his sleep schedule is terrible, and so woke up incredibly late not seeing this tweet for quite a while. And when the time came, ultimately Mars didn't reply in the manner that everybody expected him to. Mars chose the classy response. Mars replied saying, "Just wanted to say thanks for this tweet, really means a lot. You have my gratitude and thanks for everyone who's been supporting me through everything. Couldn't be here without you guys. Thank you." And for the most part, there was a large amount of disappointment around this response. People felt that Mars should have used the large platform he had in that moment to share community thoughts and complaints on the game. But I'm sitting here like, the reality is, why should he? We're going to talk about why Mars owes this community nothing and was right to respond the way he did. Towards the end of 2019, I started to notice a Mars_OW towards the top of NAE's Cash Cup leaderboards consistently. Mars then topped off the end of 2019, winning one of the days of Winter Royale with his duo FaZe Diggy, and continued that form into early January 2020. And in January 2020, I tweeted, "Why does nobody talk about MarsOW being one of the most prolific Cash Cup performers?" It didn't make any sense to me how this guy who consistently found his way at the top of all of these leaderboards wasn't being talked about more and being considered as one of the better players in his region. I began to pay close attention to Mars and quickly became a huge fan of him. There was something about his game that was really smooth and methodical and really fun to watch. I would watch his streams and interact with him in chat, and even had the pleasure of being in Discord calls with him and really getting the chance to understand who he was. I saw huge potential in Mars, and on top of huge potential, I saw someone who was just genuinely a nice guy. Somebody who put his head down and just played Fortnite and got results. And even with all his Cash Cup success, he still managed to stay out of the limelight until Craggy Cliffs. Now, if you don't know, Mars and his duo Diggy decided that for duos they wanted to land over at Craggy Cliffs. Unfortunately for them, however, they were contesting Macwood and Calc. Now, if you know anything about these two sets of people, it's probably fair to say that they are complete polar opposites. Personality-wise, Mars and Diggy being more quiet and reserved, whereas Calc and Macwood can be a lot more outspoken. Now, I found it really interesting because I'm good friends with both sets of these people, right? I talk to Mars and Diggy and I really like those guys, and I talk to Macwood and Calc and I really like those guys as well. And even with them being polar opposites personality-wise, there is one similarity and one consistency. They are both incredibly stubborn. And this meant that neither duo wanted to leave Craggy. And it's really funny actually looking back on it, because they both had success at Craggy. They both had, success in different Cash Cups and tournaments, landing at Craggy, but they just clashed heads. Now, regardless of who was actually more successful, it's irrelevant to the story. What is relevant is, due to their sway in popularity, as well as a bunch of scandals around, potential teaming and, trolling and whatnot, Macwood and Calc were able to turn the community against Mars and Diggy. Now, Diggy is obviously in FaZe, and so was a bit more established, had a bit of a bigger fan base and a bit of a bigger community. And so Diggy was, able to survive a lot of this kind of community backlash for the most part. But now with Mars, who barely had any popularity despite being so incredibly talented and successful in the game, he was essentially bullied into silence in a way. Mars would consistently have a bunch of people who were Calc and Macwood fans come into his chat and troll him and really, take the mick out of him, make jokes about him and whatnot. But despite this, Mars did what he does best, put his head down and got to grinding. If you look at Mars's Twitter, his social media, he's not really active. He's not this outspoken person who's gonna come out and really, go back and forth with the likes of a Calco or Macwood. And ultimately, the Craggy beef started to fizzle out, right? The back and forths were a lot less. The quote-unquote bullying from Mac and Calquid kind of stopped to a degree. And Mars kind of went under the grid, right? He wasn't streaming as much, he wasn't active on social media. However, one day, I decided to look at my Twitch list and I noticed my old friend Mars OW was live. He was live streaming Arena, right? And this was last season. I go into his stream and I kid you not, I saw he had 96,000 Arena points. Now, that sounds crazy. Obviously, we know now Mars is this Arena grinder who has, the most points in the world and whatnot. But last season, at the time that I had discovered that he had that many points, people were flexing they had 40,000 points. People with, 40k points and 50k points were flexing and saying, hey, look how many points I have. And people were super impressed. And seemingly nobody knew Mars was sitting there on 96,000 points. Right, so I instantly made a tweet about it, which a lot of people caught wind of, and people started to realize, oh wow, this is crazy. This guy actually has an amazing amount of Arena points. And on top of that, towards the end of the season, the Fortnite competitive team showed a global hype leaderboard, which showed Mars at the top to have the most Arena points. Now, thank the Lord, competitive Fortnite added that leaderboard, wink wink, and this meant that for the first time ever, Mars was getting quite a bit of attention. He was in the limelight. People are talking about this guy who has the most Arena points in the world. However, though, this attention to him brought back the Calc trolls and the Macwood trolls. They came and they kind of continued to bully Mars and say, hey, look, this guy's just an Arena grinder. All he does is play Arena. He's a nerd, this, that. A bunch of nonsense, really. But expected, right? When you have these hives, these big fan bases who really don't like someone, it's expected. It's part of the game, right? No hard feelings there. It's part of the game. And on top of finishing last season with the most Arena points in the world, Mars came into the season and has started to do the exact same thing, picking up where he finished off. He currently has the most Arena points in the world, again, topping the global hype leaderboards. And even with that, this season, the memes and the jokes still continued. People trying to discredit him for being an Arena player, and people just trying to say that he's not much of a comp player and should just stick to Arena. General respect for Mars wasn't where it needed to be. This is somebody who had gotten results, somebody who had showed that he could be a potent solo player, and yet the respect was still not where it needed to be. Until September DreamHack Open Solos. Mars OW comes out in the finals, stage 3 of the DreamHack finals, and wins. Tops the whole leaderboard, placing above the likes of Booga, Macwood, Whofishy, HenTV, and other top players from around the region and other regions. Mars finally got his first major comp win since Winter Royale, and even with this, he still received a bunch of trolls and hate about him as a player. However, with this huge win, he did finally receive large respect on a bigger scale, right? The general community, it seemed, did start to really pay Mars the respect he deserved and really appreciate him for the great player that he really is. And so it really stung me to see that even with how positive of a guy he is, how really nice and genuine of a guy he is, the community just turned their backs against him, right? His whole time, this whole year, if you look at Mars OW this whole year, the community's been really crap to him. They've been mean, they've been rude. He's not received love, right? And so it was really funny that now all of a sudden you have this guy who's never been, really loved by the community in this position of power, which the whole community wanted, somebody to really side with them and reckon with them and really be their leader in that moment. And so being a humble and respectful guy, Mars is, considering the community had never really given him the respect he deserved. They'd given him more hate than anything. When given this all-powerful position to represent the community, it was just like Mars to be exactly that, humble and respectful. Now, if you look at this whole situation in totality, this was an amazing step from the competitive team, right? Content like this is exactly what we want, right? For them to make tweets about players, really start to continue to push people's brands like they did with the individual player cups. Now, of course, I would have liked if this tweet was based around an actual tournament win rather than just, you know, somebody's arena points, right? But ultimately, I'm glad it happened because this is a first step, right? A first step to rebuilding the trust between the competitive team and the competitive community. And so if Mars had come out just like all of you guys wanted him to, right, and saying, we want 100% chess balls, we want this, we want that, your game's rubbish, this is that, that would have completely burned that bridge. It would have, you know, it would have been terrible. It would have been a step backwards on our behalf. Mars doesn't owe our community anything. You know, for the most part, the community's been nothing but awful to him. Mars didn't play the situation safe, right? He didn't sell out. He was just him, a genuine nice guy. Now, for all we know, somebody from Epic could have messaged Mars and been like, hey, we're gonna do this. Please make sure you reply in a respectful manner and whatnot. But that wouldn't matter. Honestly, that wouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, this is a story of a guy who the community turned their backs on, and he really got the chance to kind of stick it in their faces, and he did just so. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this situation in the comment section below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, 112k. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you. Goodbye.